Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Dynasty Dudez Hangout with myself, Nathan Powell, and my friend Russell Clay. And we have a special guest tonight with Nick Whalen of Dynasty League Football. How's it going tonight, fellas?
Pretty solid. I see we have another special visitor behind you, behind your right
Frank?
shoulder. He's
Oh,
chilling.
there's Frank right there.
He's taking in the
Straight
knowledge.
How's it going tonight, Nick?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm indoors here, so it's in the single digits here in Wisconsin. So
Oh, yeah, it must be worse for you than, like, it's funny because I complain about Massachusetts weather like every week, and then one guy posted his North Dakota weather like 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, oh, okay, I can never complain again. It was like minus 35 or something crazy.
yeah, I definitely miss my days when I went to school in Kentucky. Nathan doesn't even know what he's missing out on here. He could probably complain about it in the 50s or something.
He had to wear a sweater,
Yeah, there,
last week.
there's no air conditioner or heat on in my house right now, and it's like 75.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll get into the news and notes from this week, which really isn't much. The only two things in regards to Dynasty that really happened this week were, well, other than the comment, which we'll discuss at length later, was the Dez Bryant fiasco. With there may be a video, there may not. There's people sending out lowball offers, people sending out fair offers. It's all over the map right now in the Dynasty landscape.
It's pure chaos right now. What do you think, Nick?
I'm scared. In my one league, I own Dez, and in the other leagues, I don't know. I mean, he's a great player. I personally just feel bad for him after that catch. I mean, he did catch it, and then now.
Oh God!
Yeah, this has been a rough 2 months or so.
Yeah, and then it's just complete downhill for him. So I hope there's not a video for the NFL and for his sake.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's tons of rumors going on, but if someone's actually like holding him like basically hostage with this video, it's pretty ruthless. But I don't know, like it's not like you want to sell, but what I was talking about on Twitter the other day was there's a lot of guys sort of around his level of value right now. Sort of those top 5 to 7 receivers, you know what I mean? They're all pretty much in the range of his value, and they don't have this risk right now, you know? Like, even if it ends up being nothing, I just don't want to deal with this, you know?
Yeah, no, and I'll throw out a quick question that might give some sort of context. Who is the best player that you'd sell him for, or no, that you'd buy him for, and the worst player that you'd sell him for?
Worst player? I mean, I would think about Sammy Watkins right now. Sammy Watkins plus a little something. But, like, I'm obviously overreacting a little bit, I think. I think I'm sort of landing on the side of overreaction, but at the same time, we've seen this before. We've seen Aaron Hernandez just gone. We've seen Josh Gordon just gone. And 2 years ago, I wouldn't be reacting like this at all, but it's like panic. Like, the parents are on their way home and you haven't cleaned your room, and I'm just hustling to get something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my two levels there. I'll lead it off here, I guess. My two levels are the best player I'd trade for Dez right now. I may be willing to throw out Jimmy Graham out there if I had a Graham share for a Dez. If I think my team won't be completely awful without Graham or whatever. And then the worst player I'd sell him for would be around the Watkins range as well. So, Nick, what's your stance on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you guys. I made one offer. I mean, I tried to sell him today. I made one offer where it was like Brandon Cooks plus another 2 good solid prospects, so not like one like great guy. So probably in that range, maybe. That's kind of borderline for me personally. But Someone made an offer of Brandon Marshall today, and I couldn't do it. But Calvin Johnson, yeah, so somewhere in there. So I agree with you guys. It's tough because I hate having those risky players.
Like especially if you're normally risk averse, like I am, and then this happens, and you're like, wow, I thought I had this guy cemented in as my number one receiver, and now I'm dealing with a potential landmine here. So I don't know. I don't like this at all. Even if it's nothing, even if it ends up being nothing, I just don't like this around him,
Yeah, no, and it's just like it's pretty much one or the other. It's like either going to be some disastrously bad video for a year or more, or it just doesn't exist at all. Like it's like going to be two extremes here. And for me, like it's hard to really do either. It's hard to buy or sell right now. It's just like you got to hold or you got to just not trade for him right now. Because if you were to trade for him and he does get suspended for a year, you're going to be kicking yourself, because his ADP is going to drop like a balloon or whatever. I don't know what the saying is. But unless you guys have any other thoughts on Dez, we'll move on to the other news/note.
Hey, maybe a lead balloon, not a regular balloon.
That's it. Lead balloon. Fall like a balloon. Fall like a lead balloon.
Yeah. We understand.
Who knows what we're talking about these days?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other news and note from this week, from a dynasty perspective, was Reggie Bush got cut from the Detroit Lions. So what's our thoughts on A, Reggie Bush, and B, Theo Riddick in the Lions backfield?
I will say I think I had a premonition last night because I went through and he somehow his highlights ended up on my YouTube search, and I watched them and just loved every moment of it. And I was starting to think, like, what's a good price to buy him for right now? And then obviously this happens today. I still think he's a usable piece. I mean, he's shown he can sort of transform his body and his play to whatever the team wants. So I think he can go and fit in with the team and sort of elevate the team fantasy-wise. And I still think he could be somewhat of an asset. Obviously, his days as a solid asset are gone, but I think he could be a solid buy that could be a spot start for you next year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's kind of interesting because he's not going to fit anywhere, but what are the spots he could fit in? And I mean, if you think of somewhere like New England, that could be nice taking over for Vereen. And then I threw this one out there. I thought it was kind of almost ironic, but what about New Orleans? They don't have Sproles. Ingram's probably gone. Do they reunite and have that marriage again? But you're right. He's not going to be that every down back or every week starter. But if you have some injuries, some bye weeks, I mean, he's going to catch some passes. He could score as long as he's healthy.
And he could definitely bail out a quarterback sort of on those short screens and dump-offs. I mean, that's still what he's good at, So I think he's still pretty valuable from a real football standpoint.
And to answer Nathan's other question, I'm not on the Joik Bell bandwagon. Like, I'm all for the guy who's not, like, uber talented that tries really hard. Like, I like him, but he averaged 3.9 yards a carry for 2 years. His receptions went, I don't know, like a third of them got cut out. They're, Theo Riddick, I mean, that's a good story too, but they're going to draft somebody there. I mean, I could easily see them round 2 getting someone like Jay Ajayi, Amir Abdullah could fit in there.
Yeah,
but I think they're going to get somebody.
Those would both be fantastic. I'm on the same boat with Joik Bell. I was never really on. Obviously, he's had some productive fantasy seasons, but I was just never really interested. He was on Couldn't Care Less Island, but he sort of swam back to shore somehow. So I don't know how he got off the island, but he did. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, no, I mean, the Lions' backfield, it's kind of a mess. I mean, it sort of clears up with the release of Reggie Bush, which a lot of us saw coming as Russell trucks his mic hard. And
no comment.
But yeah, no, I definitely think they either use like a free agency, like they either go after like a Ben Tate or a Noshawn Moreno or some guy like that, or like pretty much they're not going to lean on Joyke Bell as a number one. I don't see that happening.
No. So for the next guy, Jacoby Jones got released today, but I think more I just want to talk about the Ravens sort of receiving core and like what do we think happens there? Like, does Torrey Smith come back or do they draft someone? I don't know. It's like really up in the air right now. What do you guys think?
Yeah, my take on Torrey Smith and the Ravens receiving core in general. Torrey Smith, he's meant to be with Joe Flacco. Like the money might not make sense for either side or whatever, and I'm not really even sure how much cap space the Ravens have, but it just makes so much sense for Torrey to stay. It's like I don't think he gains value really anywhere else, and I think that Joe Flacco is the perfect guy to just like he's not tall, but he's a very good deep threat.
I don't know. They're both just kind of gross passing games. Like, do I really want to have a guy in that? And an interesting way to compare it is look at the 49ers wide receiver situation. Look at the Ravens. If Torrey Smith leaves, you both got an old guy. If Crabtree leaves, it's the Torrey Smith, and then you got Stevie Johnson and I don't know who else. I mean, they're both just kind of what are they going to do there? They both need to draft some players and get some talent going. So I feel bad for everyone else around them.
Yeah, and okay, the 49ers are I'm really starting to think they could be a team that just completely falls off the wagon this year. And that's why I think Carlos Hyde is sort of a riskier player than a lot of people are thinking, because everyone's under the assumption right now that the 49ers are going to be good next year. And I'm of the belief that Harbaugh was one of the best coaches in the league. And losing him is a big impact. And I don't know if Kaepernick can sort of survive that. So I'm not really touching any 49ers. Not that they have any valuable assets, but I think it could be a potential disaster there. I'm way more optimistic about the Ravens and Joe Flacco, but 49ers, I'm just not touching it.
No, I mean, and they lost their defensive coordinator, who was top 5 defense the past, I think, 4 years. Even without Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman this last year, and Aldis Smith was suspended. I mean, you're losing all of that, and you're adding. I mean, their head coaching choice was funny anyway. But, you know what I mean. So
yeah.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, they're hands off there.
Yeah. And
all right,
okay.
So we'll move on to Go ahead.
All right.
Oh, you're pouring one out for
fellas,
somebody.
Any of you who have played fantasy football, at least know the name Peyton Hillis. He was a legend one season. I don't remember exactly what year, maybe 2011, something like that, where he was just.
He was on Madden like in 11. So yeah.
He had one amazing year. He was the new white hope, and then it all came crashing down. And he came back. He played for the Giants, had a few mediocre to really bad games, and he got released today. So we're going to pour one out for him. a once proud fantasy asset down the drain.
If you were playing Dynasty back when Peyton Hillis was relevant, I hope you sold.
Yeah, he was pretty much the ultimate sell high, but I know one of my close friends was in love with him, and he was like, bro, Hillis is going to be great for like the next 4 years. And he was just all in. So not everyone sold high.
Well, I'll tell you my sad story then. I bought Hillis after that year, and I traded the 1-1, which would have been A.J. Green. I think the guy picked Ingram, but I sold it for Blunt.
No way.
And Hillis and somebody else. It was bad. So.
Oh, Blount was a great one as well. Like what was he? Like top 10-ish, coming off an amazing rookie year, and that's why I have such trust issues with all these players. Just sell them, get all the first, and just don't worry about it. That's not actual advice, guys, but that's how I play.
All right, so before we get into the topics of today, let's get into some Couldn't Care Less Island and things that make you say what.
All right. So let's start with things that make you say what.
All right, drum roll.
Boom. All right, that was our worst drum roll up to date. All right, the thing that made me say what today was former Titans running back Eddie George, who I actually posed a question about Derrick Henry today. For those of you that don't know, he's an Alabama running back, and he's a really tall fella. So I was asking about like injury-prone tall running backs, and someone brought up Eddie George, and Eddie George never missed a game as a Titan. 8 years he never missed a regular season game, which that's
insane.
That is insane. And I mean, for the people that watch NBA now, there's a huge issue with people just sitting out games, and I think it's starting to get that way in football too. But yeah, these guys used to play through crazy injuries. I mean, I'm sure in that 8 years he had some like, not major injuries, but some serious sprains and like ankles and
yeah, he definitely had like some hamstring injuries that like people wouldn't play through today.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
So that was just amazing to me, and that was what made me say what today, I guess.
It made me say what just now, and I hadn't heard it before, so.
Yeah, there you go. So that's why we have the segment. And, okay, so this is going to be my hot combine take for the day and for the season. And it probably will come back to bite me, but I will not be investing in Northern Iowa RB David Johnson. Nick, he had a good combine, correct?
Oh yeah. And that's what's going to make this interesting. I kind of like David Johnson, but I'll let you keep going.
No, see, and there will be times where I'm wrong, and that's the preface to this. It's more, can I get away with being lazy? And most of the time I can. So basically, he never averaged over 6 yards per carry in college. He played for a lower division, and I mean, we have to wait to see where he gets drafted, but I can't imagine he goes within the first 3 rounds. I mean, were you listening to the hype, Nick? Is he probably going to go second or third round now?
I think he was rising before the combine, and I think that just kind of submitted him as a player that, you know, he was legit. I mean, and the thing is, he's a big boy, and he kind of reminds me of a bigger Tevin Coleman, and he already showed he's athletic. So you put all that together, and the hype train goes. So
I guess he's sort of, I feel similarly to him as I did about Terrence West last year, where, all right, I'm just gonna let someone else pick him, and I will invest in higher pedigree type guys in the second round of rookie drafts. That's sort of how I'm gonna play it. If it works out, we'll see. But he's getting shipped off to Couldn't Care Less Island for this week.
I'm sure he's very disappointed about that.
I'm sure he's listening right now, and if he is, I'm deeply sorry, but you have to get on the boat now.
All right, so we'll move on to our topics for the day. Our guest, Nick Whalen, he's done an amazing job putting together what he calls the Devi Report. Essentially, it's an awesome Google Doc.
Which is literally the opposite of Couldn't Care Less Island, which is care a lot Island.
Like any draft, like possible prospect that you know in the next like 2 to 3 years, it's on that Devi report. It's definitely a must read for Devi players, and it's definitely an advantage to be had for just normal Dynasty players. So, Nick, just talk about why you decided to put together the Devy report and pretty much just pitch it. Why should people get into it?
Okay. Hey, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. It's one of those things that kind of owned my life for a few months. Because I have my regular job and I'm married, so I had to wake up early. I'm working on it and at late at night, and I'd say I put 300-400 hours probably into it. And that's probably why you should buy it, because instead of going to all these websites and watching film, you can spend $5 and just listen to everything I say, whether you agree or not. It's at least an opinion on a guy that maybe you've never heard of before. So, and that's kind of it. I wanted to bring everything together because, we have all these conversations even with you guys, because we all write for DLF and we're talking about a prospect, and, I'm like, why don't I just put everything that I can find into one document? I'm sure someone would want to read it, and yeah, it's gone pretty well so far. It definitely was a lot more time consuming than I thought, and you get into it and you're like, oh, I want to add this guy, and then I want this to look nice. It just becomes 107 pages. So. And
I started Devy actually with Nick a few years ago in a league, and it's really like I describe it as the Wild West of sort of fantasy football right now, because it's like the last frontier of undiscovered stuff, and everyone's sort of rushing to find like all this stuff. And if you can pay $5 and sort of get all the information right there, even if it's just a starting point and then you go and research all the guys yourself, just getting the base knowledge down is such an advantage over everyone else that you'll blow them out of the water, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and the other part of it too is that even if you don't play Devy, like this gives you the head start on your guys for next combine. So David Johnson doesn't jump up on you. You're like, oh, I already know, and it's Thursday night, and you're bored, and oh, who's this game, and should I watch it? And you can see. So.
Yeah, that's another thing. Even if you're just looking towards next year for rookie drafts.
Yeah, for sure. And
go ahead, Nathan.
Is that I definitely look a lot into the age of athletes, the height, the weight, the speed, and those are some things that you can preview in the Devy report for the guys where you can find the age to. It's in the Devy report. You don't have to go Google it yourself, which is definitely a pain from everyone who's ever tried to search an age. It definitely takes a while, but Nick definitely has a lot of those ages in his Devy report.
Yeah, I had some friends in the government, and they stalked guys to get I feel like that's what you have to do, though. Man, it's like a mystery to figure out how old, a guy is. So.
Even in 2015, like the age of technology, it's still a manhunt for ages,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the one thing I wanted to cover too is just to kind of give you guys an idea of some of the guys with the Devy report would be some guys from non-power, the non-5 big conferences. So you have an idea of hey, who are some guys I should keep my eye on that are players? And the first one, and this is a guy near and dear to my heart. His name is Corey Davis. I love him. He's my number 3 wide receiver right now out of all of college football. Wow. If you follow the combine, yeah, I have him high. I just love him. But if you follow the combine, his brother, Titus Davis, was just there. He'll be probably a later round pick. He's not as good as Corey. He's tall. He's 6'2". He's athletic, good hands. But what I like the most about him is that he's a phenomenal route runner. He's one of the best, or I'll say the best. I don't like to be one of those people, but route runners I've ever seen in college football. And that's what makes the big difference.
And it comes across in the stats as well. Obviously, we're not just looking at that, but as a sophomore, he put up 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns. He was right there with Rashard Higgins. So he's looking like the real deal so far.
Yeah, and he's at Western Michigan. So if you're watching the game, that's who you'd shoot for. Another guy, Elijah McGuire. He's a running back. He plays for Louisiana Lafayette. I'm trying to think of how to describe him, but he's a little smaller, probably 5'10", 205. but he literally does everything. I mean, he caught over 50 passes, I think, this last year. He can make guys miss, good acceleration. He has the vision. He just has those instincts that you really look for. And I don't know if he'll be a better NFL player than a fantasy player, but a guy that can catch and score and run hard. I mean, he does everything, and that's a guy that you definitely want to keep on your radar.
The next guy we're gonna talk about is Devin Johnson, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And he's the running back from Marshall, right?
Yep.
I have no idea what to think of him. I've watched a few of his games. I've looked at his stats, and I'm still totally clueless as to how to project him. So I'm interested in what you have to say about him.
Yeah, that's a tough one because he's so big, and I don't think we know what's going to happen with these big running backs. He's 6'1", I think 243. But the thing is if you're that big, you need to have those great feet, and he has great feet for a big guy. In fact, he makes guys miss a lot. But also, his nickname is Rockhead, and he brings the hammer and punishes people. He averaged 8.6 yards a carry.
Yeah, that's what I mean, which is unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
on as many carries as he had, and you watch him and you're like,
except for Melvin Gordon.
yeah, well, you'll never hear me slander Melvin Gordon, but I think he actually out yards per carry Melvin Gordon this year, which was ridiculous. But I just don't know, is he Jerome Bettis or something like that, or what do you see?
Oh man, do I dare say that? I think he has more lateral ability and more explosive ability than Bennis does. Bennis had just the pure leverage and power, and Johnson has more of that. And in fact, he was a defensive end recruit who converted to tight end, who then converted to running back. So he only has 1 year experience running the ball in college, and that's what he did. It's wow. So I don't know what could happen next, but he even has the speed. I would say he's probably a 4.6 guy, which is really surprising at 243.
Yeah, which is insane. And I mean, I'm trying to give you guys sort of random comps to his height and weight, like Lendell White almost. But I feel like he's almost better than Lendell White as a prospect,
Yeah, no, and because he's a tight end, he has those good hands too. So you're like, what the heck is this guy? He's a freak.
Yeah.
So, all right, the next guy is Tajay Sharp, wide receiver from Massachusetts.
Woo!
Right in Russell's backyard over there. A way to describe him is he is, I think, what people were hoping Justin Hunter would be. He's that tall, linear body, but he's really athletic. But here's the difference, is that he has the ball skills and the physicality that I think Hunter lacks. He maybe isn't the top-level athlete that Hunter is with as far as a broad jump and a 40 time. He might run a 4.5 flat, but he's 6'4", 205. But, man, he is a very good prospect, and he runs good routes. So he's definitely a guy you need to keep an eye on. And then the last one, I put this one in because I knew Russell liked him. Everyone knows about Rashard Higgins. We won't talk about him. But Jarrell Presley, what did you think about him, Russell? Because you liked him, I know.
Who, Higgins?
No, Presley. Jarrell Presley?
I actually haven't watched much of him. I just looked at his efficiency stats, and he's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a smaller back, but 9.5 yards a carry, and that's just ridiculous. So even though he's from a smaller school, I'm still working on how these efficiency stats sort of figure themselves out, but this is definitely a good trend, especially because he was over 100 carries this year. So it's not like it's a small sample size,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, he's smaller. He's probably 205, 210. He's not a really big guy, but he has that linear body like McFadden, like Charles Sims, where you see the guy, he's really top heavy, and you're like, okay, can he make those lateral cuts? Because that's kind of the issue with him. But he can do that, and he has some really good instincts of just how he dissects a defense when he gets to the second level, because he has good speed, but you got to be able to utilize it. And so going into it, I was like, okay, he's got good stats. But after watching a lot of his games, I was like, man, this guy can really play. And he's out there in New Mexico, so no one knows about him. So he's definitely got to keep him on the radar.
Another guy like that is Matt Breida from Georgia Southern, and he had pretty similar stats. I haven't checked him out yet, but some of these like you go back in previous like the past 5 years, and nobody's doing this. Nobody's running with this type of efficiency. And it's just like 2014 was like a crazy year for these guys just emerging out of nowhere. And I don't really know where it's headed, but I'm pretty optimistic about all these guys right now. So
Yeah, no, I like Matt Breida too. I mean, he's fast, and the thing is when he's smaller, he's like 5'10", maybe 185, 190.
yeah,
And you're like, okay, so he has this high yards per carry. He probably just bounced to the outside and ran on option plays or something. He went right up the middle. Like, he had the vision to wait, and then he would make it, and then no one could catch him. It's like, man, like, he's another guy. Like, it's like, man, how does this happen in 1 year?
yeah, and it was all this year. Like you go back and literally, I went back and looked at the last 5 years, and there was never a year like this. Gordon, Gurley, Breida, like all the guys we just talked about, like they're putting up efficiency stats that are literally not comparable except to guys from this year. Devin Johnson, like you never see a guy 240 pounds putting up like that crazy of stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at with those guys.
All right, so unless Nick has any more Davy report thoughts, we're gonna move on to the combine stuff. Any final Davy report thoughts for you, Nick?
Wait, actually, I want to know what he thinks about Rashard Higgins real quick, because I think I'm getting irrationally high on him because of my basketball background, and he runs like a high jumper, and I think I'm becoming biased towards him. But do you think he's a legit prospect, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think Higgins is a legit prospect because he's got the size, and what I like is his ability to run after the catch because he's a skinny build. He's like 6'2" to 188 or something like that, 190.
Smaller, yeah.
But he's kind of fearless when he runs the football. He doesn't run soft. He runs hard, and you can tell those legs, that jumping ability, because he really can hit the gas in traffic and separate from people, but he also can rise up and high point the ball, and he's a hands catcher. And his nickname's Hollywood, so you like a guy that's confident.
Absolutely. You're going to need confidence at the NFL or you're screwed. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. So I guess we can talk about the combine now.
We're going to talk about the combine in 1 second, but first we're going to have a word from our sponsors. The Dynasty Dudes now have a sponsor. It's RSO, the Reality Sports Online. And Reality Sports Online is a powerful fantasy sports platform where owners can build and manage their fantasy team like an NFL general manager. RSO features the revolutionary free agency auction room, which mimics NFL free agency, enabling fantasy owners to compete against each other to negotiate and sign NFL's top talent to single or multi-year contracts. An intuitive algorithm acts as the player's agent and automatically valuing offers using the same factors used in real life. The total amount per year average salary, total guarantee, and contract length. In addition to its revolutionary free agency software, RSO's League Manager has tons of other cool features like in-season signs and cuts, multi-team up to 5, and future draft pick trades, franchise tag, injury reserve, automatic contract, and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. Test your general manager skills today by participating in a free mock free agency auction at realitysportsonline.com and use the code DUDES10. Once again, that's DUDES10, and you'll get a 10% off discount on your league today.
That's dudes with a Z, to be clear, because the Z's, as we've made an emphasis from the beginning of the show, the Z is very important, people. No, on a more serious note, I did a league on there last year, and I can say the auction format was one of the more fun things I've done. And it's literally like you're pitching contract ideas to players, and they decide which team they want to go to. So I would highly recommend it. And again, if you want to stop over there, set up a league, use your use your code DUDES10 and get 10% off your entry fee. So there you go. Try it out.
All right, so let's dive into some combine stuff. And one of the things that I found interesting on the whole Twitter timeline is that there is a bit of a controversy about the 40 times with the running backs, wide receivers, pretty much most skill positions people have been talking about. A lot of you guys may know Hugh's View on Twitter. He's the commissioner of one of my leagues, and he's a good guy. He does a lot of really good scouting. And he says that there's a lot of the official 40 times that are just BS, that they aren't actually correct, and that the NFL isn't using correct software to time 40 times. So, knowing that, do we have any thoughts on 40 times in general, or specific 40 times that we saw during the NFL Combine?
Nick, you can go first. I have some thoughts, but you can go first.
No, thank you. I don't like the combine. Let's just start off with that. I think a lot of it is very useless. And if you take someone like Devin Funchess, which we'll talk about later, having him run in a straight line, he looks like a baby giraffe getting born and trying to run for the first time. He looks so awkward. And
he did. It's a funny analogy, but he really did.
And I mean, and he doesn't run a 4.7 on the football field, so I just don't really care about it. But I agree, because when I watched the film on all these running backs, they weren't that slow on film. And so I was wondering if something was off, and I follow him as well. He's a great follow. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, you'll learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I that just kind of reinforces my belief that, you know what, I'm going to throw those times out, a lot of them. Just like I don't think Jeremy Langford runs a 4.43 on the football field anywhere.
Oh my God, that was ridiculous. I was so shocked by that. Like, even beyond any of the good times or whatever, that, like, Langford, like, I did not think he was even close to that, and he just blew everyone away. I was like, what? Langford?
I actually lost a bet on that, so I had to give someone a free W report.
Oh.
Oh well.
Hey, they got a good deal then.
Yeah, they earned it.
That's a ballsy bet though for them.
I know.
Michigan State fan?
No, they weren't. They just said he would get a 4.45 or better, and
what was the over/under? What was the bet?
4.45.
The bet was he was going to pay double the price if it was
there.
over 4.5.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I'm not as sold that the 40 time is as important for running backs in general. Like, I mean, I get why you want to time the speed, and some of these guys like Javid Best or CJ Spiller, you want to see that they actually have that world-class speed. But guys like Josh Robinson, how much does his 40 matter at all? That literally has nothing to do with his game,
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about that 10-yard split, I think. I mean, because running backs don't run in a straight line for 40 yards, maybe 10.
Ever.
I want to see they have burst, all that stuff.
Absolutely. So what do you think about the basically combine make you say what guy? Chris Conley? That's his name, right?
Yeah.
He might be heading to Couldn't Care Less Island, but he played for Georgia, so he might
let me tell you this. Someone on Twitter came out and they said that Chris Conley is their number 3 wide receiver now.
Oh, as of when?
After the combine.
No. Now, if they said before the combine, I would respect that.
Yeah. So, no, I agree, because he doesn't show that on the football field. And the other part is, with the combine, he can't move laterally. It's just in a straight line or jumping, and that's not football. I want you to be a football player first, and then if you're a great athlete, that's better. So, yeah, he's not a guy I'm ever going to touch.
So, and we've been talking a lot about Nick sort of watching the players and stuff, and he actually has a background in football, unlike me for one. So give everyone sort of a little background on what you've done in the football world.
All right, so SparkNotes version, right? Yeah. I've coached football for 7 years. I started out just doing college football. I was, like the grunt worker pretty much of a college staff. But I was a part of Western Kentucky for 2.5 years. That was a really cool
Willie
ride.
Taggart, get on the bus, folks.
He's a great guy. He is. I spent a lot of time with him. But yeah, so I was there. I was at let's see, 4 colleges. I got experience there, and I'm there learning scouting, learning recruiting, learning everything. So it's kind of interesting to kind of you interact with some of these people. Like earlier, you mentioned Jim Harbaugh. I got to meet him. That's just a really cool thing. I'm just here. I am. I'm just me. If I get to meet some of these people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just being around sort of either the practices or just the way like they talk about the game. Like you pick stuff up even when you don't realize it, and then you look back a year later and you have all this information that you didn't even realize you had. So, I mean, we tend to joke around like Charles Barkley sort of made a fool of himself about the analytics thing, but people that actually have experience in the game bring a lot of valuable information that someone not being around the game might not have, So if you know someone who's sort of been around the game, try to pick up some stuff from them,
Yeah, and so in like a sentence or two, Nick, what do you think that you have an advantage in the Dynasty, in the Devi Dynasty world, compared to a Nathan or a Russell, based on your actual football experience?
I don't know if I have an advantage over you guys. I just think that I value watching film in a different way than other people. Like some people will watch, wow, this is a really big game by this running back. But I'll see that the guard and center had a great combo to the second level and it was a huge lane. That other people might not see, or
Right.
or I'll see a busted coverage, just from the TV angle that people won't see, and that's why a huge gain happened for receivers. So it wasn't a great game by that player; it was a busted play. So I'll see little things like that. I feel like.
Yeah, it's the subtle things that sort of as you grow you sort of see more of. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that's a cool little background. Yeah.
All right, so we'll go back to the combine talk, and we'll talk some Devin Funchess. Something I thought was interesting, and everyone and their mother's uncle knows about Evan Silva, and he released his Roto World Dynasty rankings today, and he had Devin Funchess as his 21st overall rookie. That's one of the lowest I've seen on Funchess. He likened him to John Baldwin, who was drafted by either the Niners or the Chiefs.
I didn't see that. That is a rough comp because I mean, was he comparing him to John Baldwin as the prospect or as what he became?
The prospect.
Okay, that's not that bad, I guess. But
It was because of the tweener thing, the tight end wires.
Right.
It was the tight end wide receiver tweener. I mean, we're not saying all hell Evan Silva. I was just pointing it out. What are your thoughts on Funchess after the combine, Nick?
Man, I don't. We did a triple take on Funchess. Me, Rob, and Matt at DLF, and I just he's one of those guys like I kind of want to take my hands off because I don't know where he plays, where he wins, I guess, on the football field, or where even to project him. He's so he has such long legs, which create separation and lateral kind of short area burst issues, but he makes those plays because he has such long catch radius. He doesn't run a 4.7. I think he runs probably a 4.55 on the field. But I don't know what to think of him. I think he'll probably go in the second round somewhere because no one's going to let him drop that much. He is talented. I just don't know. I mean, his floor is so low and his ceiling is fairly high.
You talking about rookie or NFL?
For his ceiling?
No, you were saying second round. Were you talking NFL draft or rookie drafts?
Oh, I think he could be. How about this? I'll say day 2 for NFL draft. I think he could go late second round. Somewhere.
I think we're all sort of a little subconsciously biased by him playing for Michigan and and just living through that just horrid situation in 2014. I mean, it wasn't him. It was just a horrible situation. And I mean, it's been like that since the beginning of his career. He sort of was just finding himself as a receiving option as a tight end, and then he made the transition to wide receiver. So I don't think if someone tells you they have a good read on what the future holds for Devin Funchess, they're probably lying at this point, you know?
I mean, so let me lie to you for a second. Pretty much very similar
to who?
to Kelvin Benjamin last year, but Kelvin Benjamin last year. Kelvin Benjamin developed into a very good receiver. And so the age isn't the factor like it was with Benjamin. And I think I'm a big fan. I mean, I don't have him as like my wide receiver one or anything, but I do think that he's going. But I think that he's more of a safer project than like a Cutterall Patterson or something like that.
Okay. All right. Next, I want to talk about two Georgia Tech receivers who I was pretty excited about this year. DeAndre Smelter and Darren Waller. Nick, do you have any thoughts on either of those guys?
I like Smelter. I do. He tore his ACL. That's kind of a shame for him. But I think he could really present a good value in rookie drafts if you took him probably round 4, maybe a late round 3 if he ends up in a good spot in the NFL. But he has everything you want. And they did. I mean, it's Georgia Tech. They can't really utilize him that well there with that passing game. So he's one of those guys that goes really under the radar. But he has good size, good athletic ability, and I really liked his route running when I saw him playing. So that's something that I don't think a lot of people pick up on. And for a Georgia Tech wide receiver to have pretty good route running, that's pretty much a shocker.
That's rare. That's rare.
Yeah, and Waller's kind of just your bigger, more athletic player. But again, he's bigger, so he's going to have issues creating separation and lateral agility. But he was impressive at the combine.
Yeah, and in spurts in his college career, he sort of showed something like ball skills wise. I mean, he obviously didn't have a big sample size or anything, but I saw a few like legitimate hands catches, and I was like, whoa. And this guy's 6'6", maybe there might be something here. So, I mean, he's definitely a boom bust who will probably bust, but definitely a guy sort of to keep an eye on, you know?
And the better question here is how does Georgia Tech get all these wide receivers?
No idea.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
I heard, who's the coach there? What's his name?
Paul Johnson.
Yeah, I heard his pitch is like something about you may not get a lot of plays, but on the plays you do, you'll make a big impact. And that's like his selling point. And that's how he gets all of his receivers. So, hey, you can't hate on him if he keeps getting these guys. I mean, freaks, all of them. Even Waller.
Yeah, and how they do in the NFL is only selling his program and those receivers more, which is going to continue to happen.
All right, and a guy that I think we disagree on is Duke Johnson, and I want to first say on his 40, in hindsight, I should have seen this coming. Like, I was sort of hyping him up a little bit, and pretty clearly he was never a long speed guy, right? He never had long speed. And you believe he doesn't even necessarily have the short area quickness, correct?
I think he's a good athlete for his size. I don't think he's a great athlete for his size. And I think that at his size, to be successful at the NFL level, you have to be a phenomenal athlete. Think about, Charles and Spiller. Well, Spiller's not, but
he had that year.
Those guys.
I'll hold on to that year till he retires. I will never let go.
Yeah, but I mean, just when you combine everything with the injuries, with how he has no power, with how the great thing about him is he's really a decisive runner. So I like that about him. Like when he does get a hold, he just really goes. But I just don't see enough dynamic ability to be a factor. So I won't have him on any of my teams.
The injury thing that people are talking about is legit. He goes down a lot. It's like bumps and bruises, but he seems to just get banged up a lot, and it seems to affect his game. So that is a concern. But I do think long speed wise, he's not that good, which is weird. But I do think he has above average to very good movement in space. So that's sort of what I'm buying him for. And I may be dropping him a little bit, but not a lot. He's going to be in my top 5. So
Is he
Overall,
down there for you, Nathan?
Duke.
Yeah.
I mean, for running backs, like he's probably like after a JE. So I mean, he's probably like RB4, RB5. And then overall, it's like I'd rather take the shot on the DGB or the Funchess or even the Jalen Strong over the Duke Johnson type of guy.
okay, and Indiana running back Tevin Coleman. Was it almost a good thing he didn't run?
Well, you saw my joke on Twitter that it was good that Tyler Gurley tore his ACL, so he didn't run a 4 or 5.
Yeah. Because he would have ran like a 4, maybe a high 4-4, low 4-5.
4.51 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he would have broke 4.5, and it doesn't matter to me. But yeah, Coleman, what he ended up doing, and I didn't know this, but he broke his toe in the 5th game of the season and played all year with that, and then
ran for 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
Sick. And had his best games against Michigan State and Ohio State, which is not possible usually. Even Melvin can't do that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, so then he had surgery, and then I guess he's going to be full speed in 2 weeks, they finally said. So, yeah, I think it was a good – I mean, really, at the Combine, you always run better at your pro day anyway, so might as well wait out because he's one of those guys that needs a great 40 time in his stock.
Yeah, absolutely.
He weighed in light, too. I was surprised at how light he was.
Yeah, 6 foot, like 207 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, yeah. That's definitely not where you wanted him to be, but I mean, let's bulk up on that pro day, maybe give him a few extra pounds, Indiana, and boost that draft stock.
Yeah, as we wrap up, I'm going to hit on 2 things real quick. So the first thing is that a lot of people talk about pro days and like the combine itself is more accurate because there's it's neutral parties. It's like no one's clicking the stopwatch like that or whatever. So how much are we going to be trusting pro days? If Tevin Coleman can run a 40 at Indiana, how much are we going to trust that 40 versus if he'd actually run it at the combine?
We really don't know right now because this is the first year they shifted over to this new system. So I feel like you kind of, I don't know what do you think, Nick? I don't know how to evaluate the 40s.
No, I don't evaluate them. That's why it's a low part of my grade. But you always run faster at your pro day. It's people that kind of want to see you run faster. You're comfortable. You're at home. You're not against all these other guys and all this pressure. So I don't. It's good for Tevin Coleman because you don't have any measuring stick yet. Mm-hmm. You can't say Tevin Coleman's faster than Melvin Gordon because he ran faster as pro day. You can't do that.
Right, and let's hit on Melvin real quick. So that 40 wasn't bad. Like, that wasn't bad for him. That was a good 40 time for him. That's about what I saw him as. That really doesn't change anything. If you were expecting a low 4.4 or something crazy, like, that's just not who he is. He is not a long speed guy. He's about making quick, elusive cuts and sort of being extremely quick instead of like long speed,
Mm-hmm. And those long strides, because he uses short strides in those smaller areas, but then when he does break free, he gets those long strides out and he maintains his speed. That's what's so tough for defenders, why they can't catch him because he's like a track star and he takes I don't know 8 meters between like strides, you know?
Yeah.
Trying to take these little ones, you can't catch them. So, yeah, no, I thought he did really well overall. Like, not even just in the 40, but in every drill, I think he looked really well. He helped his stock.
You there, Nathan?
All right, to talk kind of a general concept. I think conference matchups, conference statistics, and film. It's like Odell Beckham. You know, there was the big knock from a lot of the metrics was that he had one career SEC TD and like Amari Cooper at Alabama.
Oh, Nathan.
SEC TDs without a problem. We like Amari Cooper even more because he was dominating the SEC. Or how do we evaluate conferences and defensive offensive prospects? I'll start with you, Nick.
I think what he's asking is how do you evaluate different conferences and different levels of skill, like different levels of play.
Yeah, because Nathan's breaking up a little bit. That's okay. I think the first thing, and people, they talk about that, and they talk about, you know, is the system, is that why Melvin Gordon's good? They get all this great blocking, or, you know, Trent Richardson and all that good stuff. I think the first thing you need to do is you need to find those instances when the situation takes everything out, and it's a guy one-on-one. Can he make them miss? Or can he go up over a guy and make a catch? That's the first thing I'm looking for. And you know, and he doesn't get a separation from everybody and catch with his hands and do all of those things, you know, and separate from a defender like running past him with the ball. And then I take the competition into account, you know, because if you're just getting all these big plays based on busted coverages or huge lanes, you know, like Lake Seastrunk, for example, you know,
Hey. I'm just kidding.
I forgot about that. Sorry about that.
I was all in. And hey, he's still chilling on Tennessee, so I don't want to hear anything out of you. All right? No, it's funny because Nick was pretty out on Lake the entire time, even through the Devy process when he was in college. And by rookie time, before he was drafted, I was pretty all in. And obviously, now we know, in hindsight, he went in the 6th round and basically practice squads it up now. So go on. Talk about Lake for a second.
Well, I mean, just in his situation, they have a super spread offense, so he's not really in a normal NFL offense of what a box would be, and he has those lanes. So I was looking, does he make that guy miss? How does he get around defenders and all that stuff? So to answer your question, Nathan, I always take that into account, and then I look for competition. Like, did they show up in those big games against all of that? Like, if you look at wide receivers, right? Kevin White, Alshon Jeffrey, man, I can't think of the one. Laquan Treadwell. They all dominated against Alabama in some of those big time games, and that's a pretty good indicator. Because look at Jeffrey and how he's turned out, right? And Treadwell did really well, and now Kevin White did, and where he's at. So maybe that's one of those things where, hey, he did everything else well, and then against Alabama, and that's going to make him, you know, a better prospect.
Right. It's definitely not something you want to put everything on, but it's like another plus. Like, okay, he did this. That's why it's not everything that Tevin Coleman did well against Ohio State and Michigan State, but as someone who's sort of watched the Big Ten over the years, like even when Ohio State was down, people still didn't run on them. And even Melvin, even Monty Ball, even when they were at their best, they didn't necessarily dominate Michigan State and Ohio State. And I just think that's a nice plus sign for me that he did that against that competition, you know?
Yeah, no, and obviously Odell Beckham proved that the SEC touchdowns cannot be an end-all, be-all. You know, he had one of the best rookie seasons.
Right.
One of the best rookie seasons ever. But, yeah, I mean, I think this was some good discussion on that and all the Devy stuff and whatnot. So, Nick, as we wrap this up, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you on Twitter, DLF, whatnot. Where can they find you for your work?
Well, first I want to thank you guys for having me on. It's been a lot of fun. I always love talking football, and anyone, if they want to reach out to me and they want to talk football, Twitter, I'm at _ Nick Whalen, so it's NICKWHALEN. And if you go through there, I can help you hook up with the Devy Report, or you can just search it within Twitter. It's I've advertised it quite a bit there.
You can find me at FF Russell Clay. I'm also a writer for DynastyLeagueFootball.com. I'm going to have some small sample size college stuff coming out lately about a lot of the guys we actually talked about. And so, yeah, stay tuned for that.
And, of course, I'm Nathan Powell on Twitter at NPowellFF. I'm still a professional middle school scout doing the work that needs to be done to find you Devy guys, the real guys to scout. But yeah, no, of course, most of my writing right now is being found at DLF, and I'm pretty much writing random stuff that comes to my mind. So if you have any ideas, send them to me. but yeah, no. But yeah, no, Frank's currently licking my hand right now. But yeah, no, find me at MPowellFF on the
good update.
Yeah. Find me on Twitter at MPowellFF. Thanks a lot for listening, and of course, be sure to check out our sponsor, Reality Sports Online. And thanks a lot for listening tonight, guys. It was a lot of fun with Nick and Russell tonight.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you later.